They say the night the Aztec Empire fell, the sky over Tenochtitlan glowed red, as if the gods themselves were bearing witness to a world ending. Noble families who once walked marble courtyards in jeweled cloaks now knelt on broken stone, surrounded by steel they had never imagined. Some whispered prayers to Huitzilopochtli. Others stared in hollow silence, unable to name the horror unfolding around them. This is the story the victors tried to drown in blood and smoke. Stay with me, and remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss stories buried beneath history's ruins. When Hernán Cortés seized Tenochtitlan, the fate of the Aztec nobility shifted instantly from regal authority to brutal subjugation. Many were gathered in the palace that once echoed with council debates and ceremonial chants. Now it smelled of metal, sweat, and scorched wood as conquistadors marched them out into daylight. Their turquoise headdresses were ripped away, their cotton mantles torn, and their wrists bound with rough cords that cut through living skin. Some nobles lifted their chins in defiance, refusing to let the Spanish see their terror. Others trembled, realizing power meant nothing when foreign steel dictated every breath. Cuitlahuac's remaining kin, the descendants of priests and warriors, were forced to watch sacred treasures piled into carts as trophies. Gold masks, jade earrings, and obsidian blades were stripped from families who had preserved them for generations. A chronicler wrote that the weeping of noble women echoed through the palace like wind through empty reeds. Several high-ranking lords were shackled together, pushed into chambers where interrogations happened without mercy. Some were questioned about hidden wealth. Others were punished simply for their lineage. A few resisted with quiet dignity, whispering ancient blessings, as if the rhythm of prayer might protect their souls. Beyond these personal tragedies, the empire's social fabric began collapsing with terrifying speed. The conquistadors targeted nobles because they understood that destroying a people's leaders destroys their identity. The calm councils that once guided cities like Texcoco and Tlacopan vanished overnight. Entire communities descended into fear, unsure whether to resist, flee, or surrender. The Spanish assigned their own overseers, replacing hereditary authority with unfamiliar rule enforced by muskets. Even the Tlatoani's throne, once the spiritual and political spine of the empire, became a symbol of shame when Spaniards displayed it as a curiosity rather than a sacred seat of legitimacy. Legends later claimed that spirits wandered the palace ruins, searching for nobles who had vanished into Spanish custody. Some were taken to serve as translators. Others were forced to guide conquistadors through surviving cities, pointing out temples, storehouses, and noble estates like unwilling keys to their own world's destruction. The fate of many became a blur of rumor: hidden prisons, forced marches, or vanished bodies found near lockshores at dawn. Whether superstition or truth, these tales reveal how deeply the fall scarred the survivors. Even centuries later, their stories resemble shadows, long, haunting, and impossible to separate from the land. One of the most harrowing punishments inflicted on the Aztec nobles was forced labor in mines far from their homeland. Men who once presided over councils were dragged to dig silver beneath unfamiliar mountains until their hands bled raw. Spanish accounts mention chains clinking in the dark as nobles struggled beneath loads meant to break them. They were denied the honor that once shielded them, reduced to bodies performing endless toil. Some collapsed from hunger. Others whispered the names of their ancestors, hoping spirits would guide them home, even if home meant the underworld. Their suffering became another currency for conquest. Not all were condemned to mines, some were held as hostages to ensure obedience from their people. These nobles were kept in rooms guarded day and night, where they listened to foreign hymns replacing their ancestral songs. The conquistadors forced them to witness the destruction of temples, believing it would break their will. For many, the psychological torment was worse than chains. They watched their gods topple, their culture rewritten, their families threatened. Yet some nobles refused to bow, maintaining a quiet, unyielding dignity. Their resistance wasn't violent, it lived in their silence, their refusal to allow fear to devour them. Female nobles faced different horrors. Spanish soldiers often seized them as spoils of victory, stripping them of names, titles, and autonomy. Some were forced into unions intended to legitimize Spanish rule over indigenous territories. Others were taken into households where they served under threat of violence. Chroniclers describe noblewomen who had once presided over ceremonies now scrubbing floors or caring for children who shared none of their heritage. A few managed to negotiate survival by learning Spanish customs, but even then, they remained ghosts in their own homes, symbols of a conquest that reached into bloodlines and reshaped generations to come. The conquistadors also manipulated Aztec nobility for political advantage. They selected certain lords to act as intermediaries, granting them limited authority in exchange for loyalty. These nobles walked a razor's edge, balancing the survival of their people with the constant threat of Spanish brutality. Historians debate whether they were collaborators or hostages with titles. Many suffered regardless, for the Spanish used them until they became inconvenient, then replaced them without ceremony. Their legacy remains complex, stained by necessity and desperation. Yet through them, fragments of Aztec culture endured, hidden behind the harsh face of colonial rule. Religious conversion became another weapon. Priests shattered idols and burned codices while forcing captured nobles to witness every spark and crumble. They baptized them under cold water, proclaiming salvation, though many saw it as another erasure. The nobles' sacred knowledge, astronomy, poetry, ritual law, risked vanishing with each destroyed manuscript. Some tried to teach younger generations in secret, whispering ancient verses at night. Others held on to fragments of their traditions in their memories, carrying culture like embers cupped between trembling hands. The conquistadors believed they were saving souls, but to the nobles, it felt like watching their universe collapse again and again. The execution of noble leaders was perhaps the most devastating blow. Spaniards chose public squares to send a message carved in terror. Bound in heavy ropes, these leaders stood before the people they once protected. Muskets fired. Bodies fell. The crowd shook with a grief so deep it seemed to pulse through the ground itself. Chroniclers recalled mothers covering their children's eyes, while elders whispered laments forbidden under Spanish rule. Each execution severed another thread holding the empire's memory together. Yet even then, some nobles met death with unbroken pride, refusing to let their final breath belong to their conquerors. In the years that followed, surviving nobles attempted to rebuild fragments of their identity. Some learned Spanish law to fight for land rights. Others formed alliances with Christianized indigenous communities, creating hybrid traditions that preserved echoes of the ancient world. But they lived under constant surveillance, their movements tracked, their words monitored. A few carved poetry into obsidian shards or embroidered symbols into clothing, quiet acts of defiance meant to keep history alive. Though the Spanish claimed victory, the persistence of these nobles revealed a truth: culture can be wounded, stolen, and bruised, but its heart is exceedingly difficult to kill. Still, the scars ran deep. Generations of noble families grew up hearing stories whispered in fragments: a grandfather dragged to a silver mine, a grandmother taken into a soldier's household, a great-uncle executed in the square. These memories shaped their identity like invisible ink staining every thought. Some descendants sought pride in adaptation. Others felt only the weight of loss. Even today, ruins of palaces lie beneath modern Mexico City, their stones bearing silent witness. Tourists walk these streets unaware that beneath their feet linger the sorrows of nobles whose world collapsed under horses' hooves and hunger for gold. Artifacts uncovered by archaeologists, jade beads, feather mosaics, carved wooden scepters, offer glimpses of what was taken. Many belong to noble families who once guarded them with ritual devotion. Some appeared in Spanish treasuries, others were lost in shipwrecks or melted down into coins. Each artifact tells a fragment of a larger narrative, a chronicle of power shattered by conquest. Yet when these pieces are displayed today, they carry the weight of survival. Despite everything the nobles endured, chains, exile, forced labor, erasure, their artistry endures. Their legacy proves that even when a civilization falls, its soul can still ripple across centuries. In the end, the conquistadors may have controlled the land, but they could never fully extinguish the spirit of the Aztec nobility. Their suffering became part of a larger story, one of resilience, memory, and echoes that outlast empire. When we speak their names today, we resurrect voices nearly erased by conquest. We honor what they endured and what they preserved. And if this history moves you, remember to like, subscribe, and share this journey so these forgotten stories continue to live. Join me in the next video, where we dive even deeper into the shadows history tried to silence.